Hey guys, welcome back to the Crypto Explorer channel. Today's video is going to focus on AERODROME Finance, the #1 protocol on Base blockchain. You know what that means? Lots of volume, lots of fees, legit ways to earn passive income. And if that interests you, before we get started, like, subscribe, join the Crypto Explorer community. We're on a mission to cover these legit DeFi protocols that earn us passive income. If that interests you, join the community, join the channel, and let's get started talking AERODROME Finance because there's a lot to cover. We're going to go through the mechanics of how you can unlock higher rewards compared with just simply providing liquidity, because there's levels to this game, and if you know the rules, you'll unlock further revenue levels with AERODROME Finance. Before getting started, take a look at their initial message, the welcoming message on their website. Welcome to AERODROME, the central trading and liquidity marketplace on Base. So this itself already tells you most of the volume that happens on Base, or if not most, a huge chunk at least, will go through AERODROME. So instead of following the money, let's position ourselves in between where money is flowing through. Base right now is the 10th ranked blockchain in DeFi. Their TVL is currently a little bit under 900 mil, but take a look at their chart here. So I want you to pay attention to 2 points in time. The first, on September of 2023, you see this leg up here where TVL pumped from 200 mil to 400 mil. So keep that in mind. The other point in time I want you to look out for is this that mainly went through March, this past March of 2024, where TVL went roughly from 400 mil to over 800 mil. So that's 2 points in time where we saw this huge pump in TVL for the Base blockchain. And you know what? A huge responsible of that is itself AERODROME. That's why I'm doing this video on today, just to show you how AERODROME itself is responsible so far for these bullish pumps on Base's blockchain TVL. So this is it, AERODROME chart on DeFi Llama as well. When AERODROME launched, it was September of 2023. In a couple of days, they went from 0 to 200 mil in TVL. So this first pump is what we just saw on Base. Remember, that's that first point in time I told you to keep an eye out for back in September. So 200 mil basically doubled Base's TVL back then. And I know that because I still remember I did cover AERODROME's launch. They basically doubled the TVL of Base's blockchain. But they were not done with that. March of 2024, let's see what happened. Take a look at how the TVL closely resembles, just in shape, what happens between Base and AERODROME's TVL. They pretty much mimic one another, and more importantly, take a look at how they went from 125 mil TVL to over 400. So that's almost 300 mil in less than a month. And that's the pump that we also can see happening here on Base's TVL. Well, to me, this makes and pretty much shows how Base's TVL has been following along whatever happens with AERODROME. Now, there's a few more things I want you to look out for here on AERODROME's metrics. There's volume. Clearly, you see there's some spikes in the charts. The volume has been clearly pumping. And the other thing is the AERO token price. AERO is the native token of AERODROME Finance, so you're getting paid partially with this token. And I do remember when they launched, the token price kept going down, people were just dumping, and this is the thing with these DEXs that offer these opportunities. You don't just dump the price of the token down and sell for profits. This is the game you should play. You should lock, you should commit to the platform in the long run, because when you do that, the people who have been locking all through since September up until now, locking their tokens and just building their position on AERODROME, they're now looking at the token price that is at over $1, $1.2 per token right now. And at the same time, back then, on this all-time low when people were dumping, we see token price at 3 cents, 2 cents. It doesn't really make any sense to dump the token. So let's see here the mechanics, the base mechanics of how you can earn passive income with AERODROME. How it works, simply put, it's designed to reward participants that enable the sustainable growth of the protocol. So this is completely opposite to what I just told you. The people who were dumping the token, they were not participants enabling the sustainable growth. That's not how you play the game with these type of dexes. And AERODROME works in that same way of what we see with Ramses, with PancakeSwap, among others. And I will link down in the comments, I will pin a comment with the playlist I have of these dexes. So if you want to learn more about other dexes on other chains, just feel free to check that out. Alright, so in here, this diagram pretty much sums it all up. It shows us that there are 4 key components when it comes to AERODROME, and this understanding of how money flows in this cycle will basically give you the power to understand, or the knowledge, and knowledge is power, that's what I believe, to understand what happens with AERODROME and how you can harness the maximum earning potential from it. So there's 4 key features. Starting with LPs. LPs are liquidity providers. They basically provide liquidity to the pools. Then there's traders, VAERO voters, more on that later on, and there's protocols. So what are VAERO voters? Remember I told you about AERODROME native token, AERO. So whenever you lock it, and I'll show you how you can do that in this same video, but whenever you lock the AERO token, you get in return VEAERO, and that will make you a VEAERO voter altogether. In this cycle, VAERO voters is where all profit generated by AERODROME follows to. So if you want to position yourself in here and get fees from traders, incentives from protocols, you need to get a bag of AERO and lock it. The longer, the better. But basically, VAERO voters will decide themselves which pools get AERO emissions. So let's say if you're in a specific pool, of course you want that to get more emissions, because it will mean that you get a bigger bag of AERO tokens just by providing liquidity to those pools. Whenever these pools are operating, the deeper liquidity is, the better, because it will allow traders to trade with low slippage. And whenever that happens, traders do their job, they trade, they generate fees. Fees go, let me show you here, 100% of protocols incentives and fees go to voters. So not only you're getting fees from traders, this ecosystem also works with protocols. Protocols do want their liquidity pools to be as deep as possible. For that, they will go and drive incentives, which are basically tokens that they pay to VAERO voters. Some other protocols call it bribes, but basically the point of these incentives is to convince voters to vote their AERO emissions into specific pools. If you do that, and if you go with the protocol that says, hey, I will give you incentives if you deliver your votes for AERO emissions in my pools. If you do that, they will pay you incentives. As simple as that. So you can see here, there's traders who swap tokens with minimal slippage and pay some of the lowest fees to AERO lockers. Liquidity providers deposit the tokens used for trading on AERODROME and receive AERO emissions as rewards. Protocols offer incentives to VAERO voters to attract votes/AERO emissions to their pools, allowing them to build a liquidity at a low cost, or they can build liquidity at a low cost without being the sole providers of liquidity. It's cheaper to them to incentivize people and pay people to deploy their votes/emissions to their pools than they coming all together alone and providing their own liquidity. There's also VAERO voters, which will vote on which pools will earn emissions and receive 100% of the incentives and fees. Simply put, guys, this is how it works. So let's take a look at the protocol, how you can just lock tokens with them and basically operate with AERODROME and earn the most out of it. Now that you understand the mechanics behind AERODROME and how to unlock your rewards to the fullest, let's take a look at the features that the DEX itself offers us. So first step is obviously going to connect your wallet. For that, use the upper right button here on the screen that says connect. I'm going to go with MetaMask, but you see there's a ton of options to choose from their list, so go with the one that suits you. For the sake of this example, let's say you want to spend 1,000 USDC and trade those for AERO. Here on the right side, once you introduce the amount you want to spend, it will show up all the steps. Here, you see everything is checking green, and then there's allowance not granted for USDC, which means that you need to provide allowance within your wallet. So you're gonna click this icon here that says allow USDC, accept it on your MetaMask, which will grant permission for AERODROME to access your USDC and perform the trade. If there's more lock icons showing up, you need to address those, and when everything is said and done, you'll get your tokens down in your wallet. Of course, the ultimate step will be just swapping, and when you do that and accept it in your wallet, you'll get your trade done just like so. From here on, now let's say you already have your Aero tokens, you did the swap, everything went well. Now you need to come here to the lock tab. So you do that and you will get the option to lock your tokens. Let's see how it looks like. And here you see that gain greater voting power and higher rewards by locking more tokens for longer. So you can create a lock, and basically what will happen is that you will lock your Aero tokens, and in return you get a VNFT, which is the same thing as VAERO tokens. It's basically a receipt for your transaction, and stick with it because you will need it later on when your lock time period comes to an end and you want to unlock your tokens. You need to show that receipt, so keep that in your wallet, lock and tight. Okay, here there's locks, there's relay is basically automated options to just compound your Aero tokens that you're getting and increase your V holder position. Basically that's that. But if you click the question mark icon, you'll see further instructions about it. It's sort of a little bit of a tutorial. It's very straightforward, and I do advise you to read the whole thing because you'll get to know much better how the protocol works and all the mechanics of it. Okay, so here you have just simply put an example. Let's focus on that. There's the Aero token, which is the utility token of the protocol. VAERO is the governance token in the form of an NFT. That's what I just explained to you. Aero is distributed to LP providers through emissions. VAERO is used for governance, that means for voting, etc. The lock period can be up to 4 years, and they give an example here of how it works. 100 Aero tokens locked for 4 years will become 100 VAERO tokens. But if you only lock it the same amount for 1 year, you only get 25 VAERO in return. Nonetheless, you still, at the end of the locking period, will be able to just claim back your full initial 100 Aero tokens. Okay, so I think that's important to clear out. The relay options that they give here, it's important to notice that if you go with these options and you deposit into a strategy, it will extend your VNFT and lock date to maximum, which means 4 years. Okay, so although this is very handy in a way, you gotta see if that's of your best interest, if that fits your strategy to just lock these funds for the long run, for the full length of 4 years. But once you did this and locked your tokens, now you can go here to the tab that says vote and select the pools that you want to vote for more Aero emissions to be deployed to. They will show you all the liquidity pools to vote for, and you just have to select the one that you're interested in depositing your voting power. Notice that up here they have a clock icon before saying current voting round ends in a day. So this is the end of an epoch. Epochs, when coming to an end, you are basically able to, in the new epoch, redeploy your votes into another pool or into the same pool. It's up to you. Just be aware that whenever an epoch comes to an end, you have to deploy your votes once again. And voters here are told that they earn a share of transaction fees and incentives for helping govern how emissions are distributed. So basically you are a shareholder, like I told you. You can also go here and play with incentivize. This is more for big players, because the same way that protocols can incentivize users to deploy their voting power to certain pools, if you have, let's say, 1 million or something along those lines, if you're a big holder of a certain pool, if you have a big share of that pool, you can definitely influence users to deploy more voting power to emissions to that pool. So you get more aero rewards because you're a big player in those pools. So this might be of your best interest altogether. But when you do that, you're gonna have to pay the incentives yourself. Obviously, you're gonna have to provide their incentives to users. So you select here which tokens you want to incentive users with and the amount. From here on, you continue. When everything is put in place, now you are also an incentivizer of a specific pool of your choice. You can select the pool up here from this drop down list. It's up to you. This is community driven once again, so you play a role in how the governance of Aerodrome really works also. From here on, what can I tell you more? So there's the dashboard, which will show you your liquidity pools positions that you are already in, and there's liquidity ultimately, which is where you will choose your pools from. So let's take a look at liquidity now. And last but not least, liquidity, the heart and soul of AERODROME Finance, since this is where we can find the pools that we can provide liquidity to. There's all types of filters ranging from active, stable, volatile, incentivized, low TVL, participating, and all pools. What this means is that active are the pools that obviously are still generating fees and they're active. Traders are using those. Stable are the pools which have stable pairs only, so it can be either two stable coins paired together, or even in the case, for example, wrapped ETH and ETH, but mostly we're looking at pairs which have the same market price. Although it doesn't mean that you will never suffer impermanent loss from those, because some events might happen to make a specific token or a pair to depeg, and if that happens and then you sell, yeah, you can experience impermanent loss. But providing liquidity is a mid to long term type of play, so if you're planning to stick with your position for a long time, just remember you only realize impermanent loss when you get out of the pool and sell your LP position. In that case, yes, you will realize it. But if you keep on and hold your position, impermanent loss won't really wreck you. Then there's low TVL also filter here, and that will also provide you to lower TVL pairs. So why does that matter? It matters in the case that if you're looking for pairs which have lower competition, because the lower the TVL will be, the less the competition is among the users that to distribute the fees between themselves. So that's also something that can be taken advantage of. But at the same time, if you go with a higher TVL pair, and let's say you're looking at wrapped ETH USDC, and there's two pools of that, one has higher TVL than the other, it can be the case that the one with higher TVL generates more volume because it can handle more trades. So the lower TVL will have higher slippage, and that doesn't really happen with the bigger TVL pools. So with lower slippage also attracts more volume. So that's a double-edged sword. You need to take that also into consideration. But nonetheless, low TVL is also something which you can search with filters here. Then participating are the pools in which you are already providing liquidity to, and all pools are just all pools. Here I just selected the incentivized ones because these are the juicier ones, obviously. And remember, in order to get the most out of these incentivized pools, you still need to be a VAERO holder. Otherwise, you won't get as much with these pools. From here on, you gotta look at three different aspects, which are what I call the holy trinity of liquidity providing: TVL, APR, and volume. I can toggle the fees, so let's do that to see which protocols are generating the more fees, but I believe USDC Aero, this will be the first one. They say trading fees for the upcoming voting epoch. I'm not sure what that means. Usually on protocols, I see these fees measurements for either the past 24 hours or 7 days. I'm not really sure what's the case here. Nonetheless, USDC Aero is the pair generating more fees so far. So let's look at the three things I said you should look out for. TVL, 58 mil. APR on triple digits, so this is paying handsomely over 1% a day in APR, so that there's a lot of aero being emitted to this pool, and volume is 68 mil. So if you look at the ratio of TVL and volume, this is a good one because volume is higher than the TVL, and alongside with the APR, this is already a winner. It's probably the better paying pool in all of AERODROME. Second place, it's Aero USDBC, which is also in triple digits. The volume itself is also higher than the TVL, so that's also looking really good. The same goes for the third place, Wrapped ETH Euro. All of these are pretty juicy pools to look out for, but take a look at, for example, Wrapped ETH USDC pair. This one has a lower volume than TVL. So when this happens, it's going to generate less fees because volume optimally should be higher than TVL. The higher, the better. And when you pair that with a high APR, I mean, you're sitting on a printer. In this case, I'm not all that impressed with the returns on volume that these pools are providing, because I've seen other protocols generating more volume, which doesn't mean AERODROME is lacking behind. I mean, they can only have as much volume as Base generates, and Base is currently, like I said in the beginning, the 10th ranked blockchain in TVL. So as they grow in their position, the tendency is also for AERODROME to see that bulk up in volume to benefit them. This is basically the things you need to look out for when providing liquidity to AERODROME pools. These are the juiciest pools currently. But if you're watching this video 1 year after when it was posted, you can still take the information that I shared and apply it nonetheless. So remember, TVL to volume ratio, you should be looking at a volume which is higher than the TVL, and also, of course, APR. If you consider all of those things put together, naturally, you'll choose a pair which is generating more fees. And that's it. That's all I had for today with this video. If you enjoyed this type of content, if you have any questions, drop them down below, hit that like button, and thank you for watching. Take care. You know how crazy the crypto space can get, and I'll see you on the next one.